Hey everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and here we are. Welcome back. It's part 3 now of this Scammell Commander build. This is the HobbyBoss kit. Kit number is 85527. So quite nice it is too. It's got its issues, but it's not bad. So what have I done while I've been off camera? If you remember, I put these hubs on. I've glued them on now. So basically the way I do that, I didn't want to do it on camera because it's quite sort of finicky and boring, to be honest. But what I do is just glue them on with a tiny spot of glue, and then using a straight edge, make sure that you've got all 4 edges of these brakes touching, okay? And that way you know the wheels are all going to be facing in the right direction then. And also you want to make sure they're vertical, so using a square or a block of metal or something, I'm using a rule here, we can make sure they're vertical, and I can see straight away that one is actually slightly moved. It's not vertical, so I can give that a little tiny tweak. And that's the thing, while the glue is still kind of soft-ish, we should be able to do things like that. So there we are. That's all good. That's all good. Let's just check that one again. Yeah, that's fine. Just check it for parallel again. Yeah, that's fine. Right, so that's all good. So they're glued on, they're parallel that way, and they're vertical. That's the main thing. If they do end up going slightly out, put another drop of glue in there and just pull them around. You can get them to go how you want. Now I still haven't glued this yet because I don't have the wheels and tyres on yet. But one thing I do know, if you remember, I showed you these 2 parts here, K4 and K5, that appear in the instructions but don't appear as a numbered part. If I fit K5, it fits perfectly. K4 is the shorter one, which goes from here to here. Okay, so I can show you, goes from that pin under there onto that pin on there that I'm pointing to now. If I use that, it puts the axle like that. So that's why I never fit these arms before anything's set up. You can see I've removed the paint from these pips down here where their arms are going to go on. So we'll get those on, but for now I'm just going to leave it as it is. The prop shaft doesn't have to go in until it's all done, because as soon as I move it like that, the prop shaft falls out. So I haven't got the prop shaft in there, or the drive shaft if you're an American, but this is an English truck, so it's, I should say it's an English lorry, shouldn't I? It's a British lorry, so there we go. To me it's a truck. So there we are. So that's what I've been doing. I've also, as you know, built up the bumper. I've gone round and filled in some ejector pin marks in the back. So I thought they might be visible. I don't think they will be, but you know, it's only a couple of minutes just to do them. I've glued the ends on these fuel tanks, and then gone round with the black super glue, just filled the gaps on there, and then sanded it all out. We'll give those a coat of grey primer before we do anything else, because that'll be good seam checking. You can't use black primer really for seam checking. You really need to use light grey. Any light grey paint will do. It's just the light grey colour, the matte grey, will show up the slightest marks, so we want to get that done. I've also put on the number 11 and 12, that's step 11 and 12 in the manual, although it doesn't matter because you can't actually physically fit them wrong. If you look there, I mean, it's obvious they don't go like that, so it's obvious that one's going to be for that side. I think Jess is going to start barking any second. You can hear her growling in the background. So she's got her ball and she's growling, so she's happy. I'm just going to clean off those mould seams on there that I should have done before. In fact, I have done them before, it's just that I could just see a witness of them, that's all. So that's all done, the fuel tanks are done. And then we've got these outriggers here. These go into the outside of the chassis like that. Okay, I'm not sure which way around they go, and then they in turn support the bumper when the bumper fits in. So it's all looking pretty good. That's obviously the wrong one there, so it's obviously going to be that one going in there, and then the bumper's going to go on, and that's going to slip inside the bumper there once the bumper's fully on. So that's how that all goes, and then there's a step that goes on the top as well, so you're not going to see any of that unless you look up from underneath. But hey, we're model makers, we're getting rid of ejector pin marks. Underneath these things, it's a complete and utter mess. Sticking out ejector pin marks, horrible mess. So I cleaned all that up. I've also gone on and done the headlights. You can see here there's these plates I can show you in the little bumper instruction bit. There's these plates that go in the corner of the bumpers and they hold the side lights. So we've got those there. I've been picking up them. Got these plates here. I'm ready to paint those black, and then I'm going to paint them green. I'm also going to paint the inside of the bumper black and then paint it green. The reason I do it black first is because everything else will be black before it's green. If I just go green, it'll probably be brighter than the rest of the model in that area. So that's what we're going to do. I've also got the clear sprue, and I've painted the backs of these little lights here with my Molotov chrome. So these little lights here, these are Q1, they're all like side lights. So they're all painted on the back, so there you can see they're bright and shiny. Haven't done any other lenses because the other lenses have got backings on them. They're just tiny little side lights. We want them to stick out like a sore thumb. And I've gone over these. Now I'll show you these. These are the headlights here that are going inside the front bumper. And then we've got these, I'm assuming these are fog lights that hang out underneath. They're going to be quite sticky out and be easy to damage, so I might leave them till later. But I've painted the inside of them. There's the headlights. You can see they've got the Molotov chrome in them, and you'll also see that I've drilled a hole in the back. That's because I'm going to make a light bulb and put in there. And I've also drilled a hole in the back of those as well, because I'll make a light bulb to go in there. I'll show you how I do that now. These here, they've got a bloody, you can just see a witness of it there. They've got an ejector pin sticking out that you've got to get out of that recess. It's a nightmare. So that's how it should end up looking. And hopefully the lens will look alright when it's in there, but absolute nightmare to get them out. There's also a great big ejector pin mark there, right in the front, so that's cool. So we love all ejector pin marks, don't we? So yeah, bad show, HobbyBoss. You shouldn't have put that ejector pin mark in there. So there we go. So I'm sort of ready to start looking at getting this painted now. And I'll probably get some grey primer on these as well before we start putting the photo etch on them, because I don't want to put the photo etch and then find I've got to do more sanding and just knocking all the photo etch off. And I think I'll probably also, while I'm at it, get this prop shaft out of here and get some black paint on that as well, so we can get that on there. There we are. Right, so that's just stuck there now, ready to be finagled around with the airbrush. So I'm going to get this black painted down inside here, inside those brackets, and then we'll do the green, and then we'll go look at put the lights in. And then after I've done the black, I'll come back and I'll show you how I make these light bulbs. Okay, moving on. I've got these pieces in as well. I'd forgotten about these pieces. These are like tread plates that go on the front, so when it all goes in. These I fitted because I wanted to get them painted, and also they have a very large radius on the edge of the part, so I wanted to get them in and get some black super glue in there, as you can see, to fill the gap. The other thing I had to do to get them to lay horizontal, I've just had to remove a tiny bit of plastic from here, from that area there, so they go down over these steering units. So that way they're nice and they stay nice and flat. Then be careful not to put the rule in the glue, but you can see they're nice and straight now, and then also in that plane as well. So I'm just using a rule to get all that all straight. When it all comes together, the bumper is going to hold it all together, so it's not going to be sticking out and all flimsy and everything. As I say, I haven't put those lights underneath because basically they're going to get in the way, and I think they're going to get knocked off. So we'll see how far they stick out. But I've got them over here painted, stuck to a piece of blue tack, covered up the chrome bit. So we got them there painted, ready for the green. And also you'll notice I've painted them before I fitted the light bulbs. It's important to do that because the light bulb is basically made of a piece of stretched clear sprue, which we're going to do now, and it acts like a fibre optic. So if you put the light bulbs in and then you paint the back of your headlights black or green or whatever, you'll end up with a black or a green headlight bulb. So you have been warned. So what I will do is put them in and then put a dab of silver paint on them before we put the green paint on. So that's why I've done them before. And I didn't want to have to get the airbrush out again to do the black just on the back of those headlights. So I have here a little tea candle, that's what you call it, isn't it? And some clear sprue. So what we're going to do is just get this piece of clear sprue. So I'm going to break that off the end because it's going to get in the way. So we can just hold this over the flame. I'll hold it this side so we don't waste too much. It's always worth keeping bits of clear sprue from your kits for this. just melt it until it goes nice and soft. You can see there it's gone soft there, so I can start to pull it. Okay, this is a different clear sprue. This one's trumpeter, so we'll see what this one is like. Just let it go, start to melt, let it get nice and wet. As you can see, it's tough. Like normal plastic, I can just pull this now, but this is really tough. There we go. Just going to keep pulling this somewhere along here. We should get some about 0.5 in diameter. There we go. Just hold it, otherwise it will curl up, and then we can cut it away. We'll cut rid of that bit there. That's my cutters. Let's get rid of that. There we go. So I'm after something about, I think I drilled them 0.6, so 0.6 will be fine. Oh, the candle's really hot. There we go, 0.6, 0.7. So we'll use this end. Right. So the way to make a light bulb is just literally get this piece of sprue. Let me zoom you in so you can see what I'm doing. There we go, come on, faster, faster, faster. There we are. Right, so hopefully now you can see what's going on. So I'll bring the piece of sprue in here from the right hand side. I'm not going to talk and doing it because it makes the flame blow about. But what I'm going to do is just offer the piece of sprue up to the flame and then keep turning it, and it will make a ball on the end, and that will be our light bulb. Yeah, that one went a bit off center. Doesn't really matter if it's a bit off center, but there we go. You can see one there. There we go. What am I doing? I've got the camera's focused right. God, that candle's hot. Here we go. You can see that bulb on the end of there. So we can just cut that off. Just going to check that we're still in 0.6 territory. Yes, we are. Come over here. Do that again. That's gone off center. There we go, that one's nice. We want them about the same size. So this one needs to go a little bit bigger. There we go. Cut that one off of there. Nope, that one. There we go, there's another one. And then the last one, check I've still in 0.6 territory. Yes. I think what it is, it's got the windows open and then there's a draft going through the house that's blowing the flame. There it goes up. There we go. There's our light bulbs. And then if I take one of the headlights, let's take one of these underlights. Okay, so there you can see what they look like. If you can make it out, there's a light bulb in there. So just adds to that a little bit of extra. I learned that off a Russian. You know, I always try to give a shout out if I can, if I learn something off of somebody. And there's a Russian guy, I think it's iModelist, and he did it on a truck he was doing. I thought it looks bloody great. So ever since I've done it on headlights, on everything I build. I just think it really just adds that little bit extra. Although some kits these days already have them in. And if you've seen my Apache build, you'll see that I did it on that one, on the marker lights on the side. So what I'm doing here is putting a drop of extra thin on, and then we'll leave that half an hour to cure, let it go off, and then cut the backs off. Unfortunately, these don't look so good because of the mess that they're in, because of that ejector pin mark in there. There's an ejector pin mark which is half on the part. I did film it, and well, I thought I filmed it on how to remove it, and didn't realise the camera battery had run out. So I was there talking to myself. Well, I'm talking to myself anyway, aren't I? There's no one else here, only Jess. But for now, poor little lamb. But once the lens is on, they look great. But those headlights look a lot better. Luckily, those things are tucked away underneath the bumper, so they won't get really seen. But they're a right mess. But they look, I think they look pretty good. So there we are. That's that. What we'll do is we'll put a drop of silver paint on the back. I might even try putting a drop of white paint on it to make them stick out a bit better. Let's see. So and then I'll paint the backs green or whatever. I'll probably fit them in actually, and then paint them when they're in there. But we shall see. Alright, so we've done a bit of work. Got the headlights masked up. I rubbed the back down, painted the back of the bulb silver, and then went over it some black primer and then painted it green. And as you can see, we've got the bumper all together now, and they're glued in. Tiny little attachment points here. So what I've done is glued them in with a Weld Action glue, and then I've gone on with the black CA and then sanded that down as well. So all nicely done. So as you know, I've built this completely out of sequence with the way the instructions would have you do it. But I think this is probably a better way to go about it. Now, this cross member, they show you fitting that in the instructions. There is absolutely no guide whatsoever as to where it goes. But I can tell you that if we push it back to the chassis rails there, then that is pretty much going back almost to the point of where the front of that engine plate is. And then these end plates here, they're going to go in, they'll get clamped and glued in place. So that is basically our front bumper ready to all go together, which is all good. So so that's that, and you can see we've got the headlights masked up. I've also done these ones, these stick out underneath, but as I can show you, let's put this one in here if it'll fit. No, it'll go in this side, I think. There we go. You can see they kind of stick out, and they're going to be very vulnerable to getting snapped off. So they're very sort of afterthought, aren't they? Typical British Leyland. So yeah, they'll be done. So and the tanks, if you've seen my priming video, then the tanks are all done now. I've still got a bit of a marker on the top, but that's going to get covered up with the PE step. But we've gone round, used the grey primer to do all the seam checking, and we're all good. So they're going to fit on there. Lovely. We've got some work to do on them yet. So yeah, we've got to press on. So what's going to be next in here? So we've done all of this now. So we can cross out. You can cross out that. We can cross out that. So that is basically that step done, I think. Yeah, so we can get our black pen. Special treat time. There we go. That's that done. Right, so moving over here, we're going to get this bumper fitted next, I'm guessing. So we'll get the bumper fitted, and then we can start looking at this winch gear and these bits and pieces on here. Working on the tanks and that. Lots of bits and pieces all going together. So I'm going to get that front bumper fitted. So, first things first, I want no paint on there, so I can sand the front of that chassis. We'll get rid of the paint here. we'll get rid of the paint here, and then in here so we get a nice strong joint. The same in there. There we are. So I'm not too worried about paint on there. We're going to, as long as we get a good contact on the end of the bumper, I'm just going to scrape down, just down the inside of that line there. That's where the end of the bumper rail is going to come. Like that. And then that's going to go in like that. I guess what we could do is take some paint off of here as well, and here, and there, and there. And the glue will work through the paint, but it's just better to not have any paint there if you can help it. So that's going to go back there. We're going to push that in nice and strong. That's going to go in there, that's going to go in there, and as you can see, and I want to actually check that it's square, and what we can often do is use these cutting mats. So we can move this out of the way, we can put this chassis upside down. Now it's going to be difficult for me to do without getting my head in the way of the camera, because I need to be looking straight down on it, but I can get the chassis lined up like that and check that that front bumper looks square. So that chassis is not lined up square at all. I'm looking there and I'm happy with that. I'm happy with how that's come out. I think what I'll do, I'll turn the camera off so I can do it properly, because I need to put my head right over it, which means then you'll be looking at the back of my bald head, and why would you want to look at that? So I'll get this done and then I'll come back before I do anything. Okay, so I'm happy the bumper is square. I did actually sand a little bit more off of this chassis leg at the front because I felt the bumper was just on a touch on an angle. So what I'm going to do now is glue these chassis end points to the bumper, but not anywhere else. Get plenty of cement in there. Get a nice strong joint, because I think everything's going to mount off of this. Okay, so that's that one there. And I'm just going to, with a straight edge, just check where we're good on the front. So I haven't glued the cross member and I haven't glued the ends. That means I can manipulate it all and get it all how I want it. But at the moment we're looking pretty straight. This one's got to come back a touch. As you're probably noticing with this, guys, this is all about keeping everything square, straight, upright, parallel. It's going to be difficult to clamp that. If I can clamp it like that. Oh. You see, I don't want to put the clamp against that plate because it'll probably snap out. I'll have to find a way to clamp that back in and maybe just tape it in. Maybe just a piece of masking tape. I just want to sort of hold it back while the that's not long enough, is it? I just want to hold it back while the glue dries on the end of that chassis rail, so that it kind of dries in the right position. Here we go. So that should be nice and straight now. There we go. There's lovely, see, as you would say if you lived in Cardiff. There we go, right. So, let that go off for a little while, and then we can look at getting on with something else. Alright, so the last thing I need to do with this is make sure that the bumper is actually level to the ground. So this pair of tweezers is absolutely perfect because in its natural state, it's just catching the bottom edge on both sides. It's a bit heavier on this side, so I'm just going to pull this side up. Okay, I'll push that side down. This is why I only glued the middle, because it's now, it's, if I manipulate it all. There we go. It's still a bit low on this side. I don't know why it won't go up. Just give it a proper little push. Very strange. I mean, we are talking a couple of thou. It's nothing. It's nothing much, but I can actually still manipulate it because it's not all glued in solid. Okay, there we go. So, right, I'm going to let that dry before we do anything else with it. So now I'm going to start looking at these fuel tanks, because going on through here we've got all these bits and pieces to go on, which I'm not going to be fitting right now because we'll let the bumper sort itself out. So I'm just going to start looking at this photo etch on this fuel tanks. So we've got 2 sheets of photo etch with the kit, and this is a perfect opportunity to do a sort of PE part 1 in the beginner's guide. So I'll see you over there. That'll be part 7 of the beginner's guide. We'll be covering this. So what we'll do is we'll get the parts off, cleaned up, whatever, and then we'll come back for doing some assembly. So I'll see you back for that. Okay, so we've made the video now, part 7, and in there I've basically shown about how to clean up the brass and get it all fitted and everything, or not fitted but bent up and everything, all nicely folded, and very nice they are too. Really nice brass to work with. So we've got this going together. Basically we've got these 3 pieces of A14 on each tank, and then we've got the PEA4, PEA3. I don't know why they're different. I really don't know why they're different, but they are. They've got different bolt patterns on them. So I've put on the back, I've put a number 3 and a number 4 on them. Now here we can see these parts, and it's not very clear in the drawing whether they're supposed to be bent sort of 90 degrees or if they're sort of on an angle. So I've gone for 90 degrees, but the first thing I have noticed is where I've got this part here. Come here. If I could just show you the way these parts are made, you've got a sharp corner at the bottom, but it needs to fit into a rectangular recess in the front of the fuel tank. So basically what we need to do is cut that bottom corner off so that it fits in there nicely. Okay, so I've done that one. In fact, what I might do is actually sand a bit more off it because it's not quite square. Oh yes it is, it's fine. So with these, what I'm going to do is cut them before I fold them. What I'll do is get these little Xeron cutters and just cut the brass 90 degrees to the end face. So I would suggest you do the same to enable them to fit. Just like so. We'll just cut the ends off. If you've got one of these kits, let me know what you think of it in the comments below. So I got this for a great price from Vince over at Models for Sale, but I think it's about £150 retail, and I don't think it's worth that. Not when you consider, you know, the price of the the 911 and the 1070 and all the other tank transporters are. I don't know why this one should be so expensive compared to them. But anyway, there we go. So we're going to have to get these folded up and glued on. Just in case you are fairly new to the hobby, I'll just show you what I do here. Is I'm going to bend that end up first. So I'll put that down on there. I'll get my blade, slot it into the groove where it's supposed to be folded. Just fold that up. And then because we've got that there sticking out, I have to be a little bit careful. Just make sure that when we pick up the groove, we give it a little push down and it will just put a little kick. Just puts a little kick in it so it can get under. There we go, that's that bent. And there we go, there's one there ready to go. So that's two we've done. So I'll do the rest and then we'll come back and look at gluing them on. Okay, so we've got those bits on. I've also fitted that little panel. There's, for some reasons, it's on one side and not the other. I must check to see if that that square frame on there needs to be sanded off. I'll check my references. So we've got these brackets on, and what I don't remember if I mentioned this or not. I'll edit it out if I haven't. There's these little moulded on rectangles that these bits fit in, and they're actually not wide enough. So what I did was scraped away the left hand side of each one, and then the bottom edge that I cut off square has gone in square on the bottom edge to keep them level. And then once they're in, you can just take a straight edge, put it across the top and check they're all level, and then just try and manipulate them and get them all square and everything. Okay, I'm just editing this in. I'm halfway through filming part 4, to be honest, and at the moment you're watching part 3. And I'm just about to show you a method of fitting these brass steps to the top of the fuel tank using a piece of plastic strip to bond it down. As it turns out, I was incorrect to do that, because when I came to fit the fuel filler, I realised that the step was very high in comparison to the fuel filler when I look at my reference photos. So what I've done, I've gone back and looked at this assembly of the fuel tank, and I explain all this in part 4, so whatever, so you're going to see it twice if you watch the whole thing. The way they're showing this here, it goes together, and you can see they've got like a line on each part here. I don't know what they're trying to show, and they've got this piece of photo etch which you're about to see with the step in the back, going down into a groove. Because when you turn it over here and you look at the back, you can see that that piece of photo etch is sort of down into a groove. So I decided to, even after you'll see me go all the way through and I get them all done, I've decided to actually break them apart, and then I've used the saw. I've used my ASK saw, okay, with a very fine blade, and just literally made a groove, and then opened it up with this old Tamiya scriber to get a big old groove in there to get plenty of area to get glue in. And then I've actually fitted it down in, and as you can see now, it fits a lot nicer. On this one I lost one of those parts, it pinged off, but on this one you got all the 3 original parts on there, and you can see there it's sitting down lower. You can see more of the fuel filler cap, and also it's sitting down lower over those brackets, which looks a lot nicer. So that's what I've done there, and you can see on the back it's sitting sort of in the tank rather than on it. So something worth bearing in mind, you can do either, but if you want the fuel filler cap to look more sort of up in relation to the step, then perhaps go this way about doing it. So sorry about that. I'm going to leave it in so you can see how I do it, because it's always handy to keep in mind stuff like that going forward, putting a piece of plastic strip on the back, because then you've got the whole contact area of the plastic strip onto the PE, and you're able to then use Tamiya extra thin to glue that plastic strip to the top of the tank, so you get a much stronger joint than just having like a piece of photo etch on its edge. But obviously it was supposed to go in a groove that was never there, so don't quite know what's gone wrong there, but it looks like they intended to mould it differently than they did. So there we go. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the video. Sorry for the interruption and sorry for the mistake, but I thought I'd just put this in just to cover where we are. This one's 12, so this has number 4. What I've done here on the back, this is about 1.4 millimeters high. So I've got a piece of 1.5 millimeter square plastic rod. Okay, I glued it in there, and that means then that when I glue this down, I'll have a nice solid glue in there. Whenever you're just gluing something on an edge with photo etch, it's very easy to just flick off. So that's going to go on there now, and it's going to be glued on solidly with plastic cement. Okay, and then these little areas under here just have a spot of super glue on them, but it will make it a lot less brittle, a lot less likely to snap off. And unless you sort of pick the model up and look under there, at the same time you're going to see this mess of a gearbox, so we're not really so worried about accuracy there. I mean, what I could do is take some away from this end, because we can see a bit of that end, but once it's all primed and black and everything, I don't think it's going to notice at all. So I'm not really too worried about it. We could just take away that corner. If you don't have features, it won't be seen, especially if it's painted black. I guess if there's a sharp corner there, it might be seen. You could, I could have made it a bit shorter, but I don't think it's going to be seen. We shall see. It's probably under the edge of the cab anyway. But that's basically going to go on there. It's going to sit on there like that. And then we can glue it on, get it all level, get it positioned, and then put some super glue up under for those little bits on the front. So all in all, it looks quite nice. It's better than a great lump of plastic on there, as you can see. But so we'll get that glued on. I think I might put some black paint up inside there first, because it might be difficult to get up. It might be, I think it'll be okay actually. That'll be okay, get up in there with that. I may just spray a little bit of black up in there just to help out. Right, so that's that bit done. So I'm going to get those glued on. I'll get a bit of black paint in there, get them glued on, and then I'll show you how they look. Okay, so we've got our let's get rid of that board. We've got our plastic glued in there. I've sanded back to expose the plastic, remove the paint, and obviously painted in there in black. I use the MRP primer because it works really well on brass. Then so I can get that central there, and then I can run some extra thin in behind. Place it on the brass, push the brush down, let it capillary under. There we go. That way we don't get great big drops of glue marking the top face of the tank. And then what we can do to make sure it's level, I've got my calipers here. I can put this in here in the bottom, so the bottom is resting on this, and then I can close it up and check. So it needs to come up a touch on the front. There we go, that's parallel. So we can just leave that to dry. And then we can come back and put some super glue on the front later. Remember, this is brass, so it's glued to that piece of plastic, so we should be able to manipulate it should we need to play with it anymore. So onto the brass and let it capillary under. And that should get into that plastic joint there. There we go. I forgot to say as well, I've sanded away the paint on the top of the tank, so we get the plastic to plastic joint. I need to lift that up quite a lot. Check it parallel. There we go. All on, super glued up behind there. So as you can see there, look at them close up. We've got the nice brass steps on, nice and square. Everything's all super glued up. And as I say, that plastic strip in there has made life really easy, because that will enable me to sort of bend it and get it all nice and square. I actually had a twist in one of them, so it enabled me to get that out. So yeah, really, really nice. Not over the moon with these brackets, but they're good enough. They're good enough. You're hardly going to see them underneath the dark green and the black and everything. So there we are. So that's them. So now we move on to the filler cap. This unit here, whatever that is, I'll have to have a look. Both the same. And then we've got these side pieces here, H15, H16, and the step H50. So if there are any, I very, very much doubt there are, but if there are any manufacturing tool designers or people who design the sprues or whatever, can you please stop doing this? I mean, we've got these parts going on here, and these parts are going to fit like that. Okay, so that's going like that. So the whole back of the part is up against the side of the fuel tank, yeah? But look what they've put on the front. 2 ejector pin marks in each. And also, the sprue connection point is on the front, not on the back. So, completely and utterly wrong, basically. I mean, I could put them wrong around, but no, we'll have to fill those ejector pin marks in. So, why do they keep doing it? Why? This kit is turning into, I mean, I've had the ejector pin marks in those spotlights, which is a bit of a shame. We've got the trailer wheels to come yet, which are going to be a complete and utter nightmare. But yeah, it's just annoying. It's just extra work that doesn't need to be done because somebody didn't stop and think what they were doing. You know, they could have quite easily put these ejector pin marks on the back, quite easily. You know, do they even need ejector pin marks to push them out the tool? Probably not. It's not that there's any real big detailed feature on there, is there? So there we go, we'll put some super glue in there, get rid of that bubble, let that dry, and then we can sand it out. But it's in a recessed area as well. So yeah, I just wish the model kit, I mean, Trumpeter have got really good with it. I would have thought HobbyBoss used the same design team, but then I suppose with Trumpeter, don't you? You get what you call the A-team kits. I mean, look at the HobbyBoss A26. My God, that thing's an absolute nightmare. But there we go. So I'll get them filled in, let them dry, and then we'll sand them out. I'll probably do the ones on the bottom of these as well. Although I might just leave those. Right, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so that's those done. Ejector pin marks gone, I think. But then we've also then got these pin marks at the bottom where they go over the steps. So I've glued them on with a bit of quick setting. And now I'm going to glue them onto the actual tank itself because, I'll show you why. Because when that goes up in there, we have another gap to get rid of here. So I am going to put some extra thin quick setting in there, and that can do its thing and gel with the paint. There we go. As you can see, I'm using the quick setting and it's really dissolving that Mr. Surfacer that's on there. Okay, so that's that. And now what I'm going to do is just quickly drop in there and a drop in there. There we go. And that will just lock those sides in. So that's that done. Check it's parallel on the bottom. Yes, it is. There we go. And I've got this one already assembled, so I can put a drop of quick setting in there. We'll put a drop in there, like so. Give it a little squeeze. Give it a little squeeze. And then we can put a drop in there and a drop in there. There we are. Job done. So that's those done. We've got these bits and pieces to go on the top. So these are actually a big and a small pin on them, and then there's a big and a small hole, as you can see. So they should just drop in like that. And then I can put a drop of the quick setting in the back and then not touch it because I don't want glue oozing out everywhere. We'll do the same on this one. There we go, that's that one on. And then these fuel fillers, I'm going to have to check my references to see which way they go. They've got it in the instructions, but I don't trust it. I'm sure it is going to be that way. I'm sure it is going to open outwards, but I'm just going to check my references before I glue them in. And then what I'm going to do off camera, I'll get some super glue in there, get some in there, and we'll get that all blended out. And then our fuel tanks are done. So I'm guessing we can quite probably call that a day for this video. Let's see what the time's looking like. Okay, so after all that fuss and faff, you can see I've given these a coat of grey primer, and as you'll know from my beginners videos, I use grey primer to check for stuff. Now, if I'd used black, I probably wouldn't notice that. If you can see this ejector pin mark where I've put the the super glue in there, you can see it's raised. So I know now I've got to sand that out. This side's got very slightly the same, but I'm happy with all these joints here. This is why I do this, because when you use super glue and you think it looks great, and then when you paint it, you see these bloody great lumps of glue everywhere. So yeah, I'm happy with that. It's looking good. This one here, we can see you have a very slight mark there, but I'm not going to worry about that. And there we've got the mark as well about the from the sanding. So we can just work on that, just lightly sand it, lightly scrape it, whatever. So happy with that. As you can see on this side, we've got the plaque, which is a photo etch part. On this side, I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but I've sanded away the frame around the outside that shows where that part goes, because it's not part of the real thing. So the photo etch here, a lot of people ask about primers for photo etch. I've actually used, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's here. It's here somewhere. Metal Prep 4K. This is a VMS product. They recommend you brush it on. You brush it on, leave it for half an hour, and then put your primer on. And it does make, as you can see, I mean, I wouldn't really go at it, but you can see I'm scraping that pin across there and the primer's not rubbing off. And if there wasn't anything on there, the primer would just come off. So recommend this stuff, Metal Prep 4K. You can get it again from there, Premium Hobbies. Use your code NMB10. It says brush it on, but it's that thin. I think you could airbrush it on if you wanted to, if you're doing some large areas. But yeah, and it hasn't ruined the detail at all. You can see on there we've got the detail on the tread plate. So all good. So I need to get in and get some sanding done, get those ejector pin marks sanded out. I can see there's a little undercut there. I need to get that sorted. Same on this side, you've got the ejector pin mark. But you know, it's not the end of the world. You could leave them, because at the end of the day they could well be hidden, because we've got the fuel tank here, we've got the fender going there, we've got the toolbox wherever it is there, so you're not really going to see it. So it's up to you which way you go. But anyway, I like to get everything lovely. It's kind of, I don't know if it's an illness or if it's just a trait or whatever, but even if you can't see it, I like to try and get it nice, just because that's what the hobby's all about. It's about modelling, it's about putting things together and making them look lovely. So I'm going to sand those out, make them look better, and I will see you back here for part 4. The other thing I've done, I've actually put some super glue in these mounts at the end here. I actually did get them clamped in with a peg, and then once the super glue had dried, I went in with some Wild Action glue to get these outriggers here mounted to the ends of the bumper. And as we can see, bumper's nice and straight, bumper's nice and straight across the top. And I think that we're still slightly down on this side, so we're still going to be doing some bending and pushing and pulling, but it is literally nothing. It's nothing. It's not going to be noticeable to the eye even. So happy with how that's gone together. So there we go. So the that front cross member is still not glued in, because I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing, whether I need to lift it up, down, whatever. It has no location whatsoever. It just goes in there and sits there. There's no tabs for it to go into, there's no distance for it to stop at, there's nothing. So be careful with that. If you're following the instructions, be careful how you fit that. So I'll see you all for part 4. Thank you for watching. If you've liked the video, please click the like down below, and if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I do lots of videos, and if you want to hit the notifications bell, you'll get notifications of when I put new videos up, and I do lots of them. So I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.